What is up, guys? Private Eye Russ here. I run, own, and operate a private investigation and security consulting company, and we provide a wide range of services. Welcome to the Private Eye Russ podcast. Before I get into the range of services, thank you for being here. Like, subscribe, share. We offer services ranging from corporate theft investigations, whether it's material embezzlement or the dreaded intellectual property, we can help you. Criminal defense investigations, litigation support investigations, infidelity investigations, obviously. One thing we're getting a lot of calls for are the long-term relationship or married or marital background investigation. If you want to know or take a look and get a detailed look into your prospective partner's past before you tie the knot and before you become emotionally invested, give me a call or shout me out through an email at russ@privateeyeruss.com. That's PRIVATEEYERUSS.com, russ@privateeyeruss.com. Alternatively, you can reach out to me at privateinvestigatorruss@gmail.com. That's privateinvestigatorruss@gmail.com, or send me a direct message on X. I'm on X all the time. I also offer personal coaching. Men, if you want to reclaim your power, if you're tired of living life by everyone else's rules, if you're tired of being manipulated and pushed around and pushed and pulled like a marionette or a puppet on a string, dancing about to the beat of someone else's music, reach out to me. I can help you reclaim your power. All right. If you don't want to be a wind-up toy NPC automaton like most of society, and you want to set yourself apart and realize your true potential, reach out to me. I can help you. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this. This is a reaction video. Obviously, you guys are aware of what happened to former NBA player Ben McLemore. He played with the Portland Trail Blazers, and he was playing overseas in Spain. Big professional basketball scene in Spain, Greece, and other parts of Europe. Lithuania, China, so it's no longer just an American thing. But anyway, he was recently convicted of rape, and we're going to talk about his case, his conviction, and where he went wrong, and some of the things he should not have done, and the lessons we can take from this. Shout out to everybody involved. Shout out to the victim. Shout out to everybody. I wasn't there. I don't know what happened. I'm just going based on the verdict of what happened. Okay, so fair use. Let's get into this.
Guilty of the charge.
Former Portland Trailblazer Ben McLemore showed little emotion after a Clackamas County jury found him guilty of rape following a 2.5-week trial. The jury convicted him on 3 counts: first-degree rape, first-degree sexual penetration, and second-degree sexual abuse. Prosecutor Scott Healy.
You just don't do something like this to somebody and get away with it. I don't care who you are.
Prosecutors say McLemore raped a 21-year-old woman at a party in October of 2021. The assault happened at the Lake Oswego home of McLemore's then teammate Robert Covington. During trial, the woman testified she was incapacitated after a night of heavy drinking and unable to consent. McLemore admitted he'd been drinking as well, but testified the sex was consensual.
She didn't show no signs of distress or discomfort, and didn't, give me no sign.
Okay, so let's break it down. All right, so he went to a party. Everybody's drinking, probably, who knows, maybe drugs, maybe not. They're in the NBA, they get drug tested, so maybe he wasn't doing any drugs. Maybe she was, maybe she wasn't. They were both under the influence. Okay, so let's pause there for a minute. Here's the thing, guys. All right, and I talk about this all the time when I help guys build their own set of protocols of how they should conduct their activities, whether it's business. This is for my personal coaching clients, whether it's business or personal interactions, and especially interactions with women that you might become intimate with, okay? One of the main things you have to always make sure you have is confirmed consent. Okay, so for a person, now a drunk person can say yes, I consent, or they can seemingly consent, or they might seem like they're into it, but a person who's under the influence of alcohol, drugs, or under duress, or under any sort of threat or coercion cannot legally consent. So if they are not in the right state of, physically or right state of mind to sign a contract like a mortgage or a car note, or a lease, they cannot consent legally to fun bedroom activity, or in this case, sex or whatever. And this is 101. You have to have consent. Okay, so a drunk person, a high person cannot consent legally. A child cannot consent legally. The age of consent is also very important. This is why people make fun of me if I meet a woman in the wild. I don't do the dating app stuff anymore. The dating apps are the biggest waste of time, guys. I did okay on dating apps, but honestly, it's much more efficient to meet women out and about. Get out, get away from your computer, get away from your phone, go shopping. Like, I meet women at Publix and Whole Foods on a regular basis, and what I'll do is we'll exchange numbers, and I'll meet her for coffee. We're not going to dinner first time I meet you. We're going to coffee. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to meet you in a public place. I'm not going to meet her at her car. I'm not going to walk her to her car. These are all very important. I want to be seen in public, and I want a place that has video cameras from multiple angles to show everything that went on. And, there's other things to it. Obviously, I'm not going to go into that on the internet, but I want to make sure I'm covered as much as possible. And when I meet with them, we're going to meet a couple of times before I decide whether we're going to go anything further, dinner, whatever it might be, especially no alcohol. No alcohol can be involved in these things at all, because you cannot consent if you are under the influence of alcohol. Consent. It's a legal term you have to make friends with and understand the ramifications if you do not have consent. If you are with a drunk person, they are clearly drunk, they're under the influence. Even if they say yes, they have not consented because they do not have the mental capacity to consent. They are not competent at that particular moment. Make friends with them. I'm not an attorney, but I'm giving you guys good advice. Confirm it with an attorney if you need to. Okay, I'm a licensed private investigator. Happen to think I'm a good one. My clients think I'm a good one, but whatever. And I'm giving you guys gold here, so take notes on this stuff, okay? He could not have gotten consent. I'm not saying he forced himself on her. I'm not saying that she didn't, like he said, show signs of, she didn't show any objection. Someone who's drunk might not show objection. So he might not have thought he was, engaging in grape. You know what I mean? And she might not have thought so at the moment, but later on, you leave yourself open to being accused of, and now in this case, being, found guilty of grape. Okay, so I don't know what happened to the video there. Anyway, so when you're dealing with this sort of situation, here's what you do. All right, so when I was younger, I'd go to parties, clubs, or whatever, and women will come onto you. They will flirt with you if they're drunk or they're under the influence or whatever the case. The answer is always no. Stay far away from them. Don't walk them to their car. Don't do anything for them. Let them go with their friends, or tell one of the security guys to walk them out, because you're leaving yourself open for an accusation. I'm not leaving myself open for an accusation. I'm just not doing it. And I've worked on so many cases so far of false accusations. I'm not saying this one was a false accusation, but I'm saying that I've worked on 18 now cases of false accusations where sometimes it's a lapse or a breakdown in communication. One person thinks one thing, another person thinks another thing, and then later on, things wind up, spiraling out of control, and you wind up on the wrong end of an accusation. You don't want to be on the end of that accusation, because even if you are not guilty, trying to prove yourself innocent of a charge that doesn't require much evidence to get you arrested for. And I've seen guys arrested that there was no evidence they did anything wrong except the accusation, and the accusation wound up being false. But you've got to protect yourself, and one of the ways is consent. And so what we heard him say was she didn't show any signs of distress or that she objected. Okay. The absence of objection does not necessarily mean consent, guys. Protect yourself from this stuff. I know I'm beating this horse to death. However, you guys need to understand this, because, again, I've worked on a bunch of cases where guys have been in the same situation he was in. They were lucky enough that circumstances wound up, showing that these women were fabricating these charges. In this case, he was found guilty, and so his life is going to take a very, very negative turn. So anyway, let's keep going. Fair use. Consent.
Signs at all.
The prosecutor described the victim as brave for coming forward, reporting the crime, and then following the long road to justice.
Crime victims don't often report these cases, even when celebrities not involved. So she was very brave to do that.
Okay, now what else? What else helps her case in this case? And again, I'm not assigning innocence or guilt to myself. Excuse me. The courts found him guilty. He had his day in court. He had legal representation, and this is just what he's got to deal with. Is that she didn't wait 20 years until he hit the lottery and say, "Hey, I want this." You know, he did this, he did that. She came out, and so a lot of these cases recently in the news that we've seen, where women have come forward 10 years later and said this or that or the other thing, and however they work out is however they work out. But ultimately, you've got to be, you've got to be really, really careful. So did he put himself in a bad position? He put himself in an awful position. Now, how do we avoid, allergies. Sorry about that. How do we avoid putting ourselves in these positions? All right, by being thinkers first. All right. And so what I say by being thinkers first is not, what I don't mean is that you think about what's going on in the heat of the moment. In the heat of the moment, this guy was drunk. She was drunk. So you're not going to be working on, your brain is not going to be firing on all cylinders at that particular moment. Think ahead of time of what you're going to do in case some of these circumstances pop up. This happens a lot. Like I was shadowing a client not too long ago, and he's kind of known for going out and getting drunk, and he's gotten rolled and robbed, and people have stuck him up and stolen his Lamborghini, stolen his G-Wagon, and I've had to go recover goods for him. So every now and then, if he's going out, some of his people would be like, "Hey, can you just shadow him or have somebody else shadow him?" Well, nobody else is available, so it was me. And I hate clubs, man. I absolutely detest nightclubs. I don't know how people go to them. They're the most unproductive use of your time. If you want to meet girls, there are better, more efficient ways to meet girls, but whatever. All right. And so he's known for, carrying a bunch of cash. And so I look out for him, right? So I'm watching his back. You know what I mean? Everybody else doesn't have somebody watching their back all the time, but I'm also observing what he's doing. So if someone accuses him of something, which has happened in the past, and we've had video, like, look, he didn't do anything. This is what happened. But for the regular guys, you need to think, what am I going to do ahead of time? What am I going to do if something goes sideways or whatever the case might be? Sorry for any noise you might hear. There's some construction across the street. They're doing renovations that seem to be going on for the past year. And so he left himself open in a very, very significant way. The victim came forward. And, the case took a while. He's working overseas, or he was working overseas. He's not working overseas anymore. He's going to serve some time. All for what? All for a few moments of pleasure. If he had thought ahead of time before this happened, what would he have done differently? He was like, okay, maybe I shouldn't go down this road, and maybe he wouldn't be looking at this particular situation right now, which has become all too common with celebrities, athletes, politicians, whatever it might be. So protect yourself, have a set of protocols in place. Excuse me, allergies again. And again, sorry for any noise you might hear. It's really annoying, but have a set of protocols in place before you get into that position. Okay, so if X, 1 + 1 = 2. If X, if then, right? So the old programming for BASIC, I used to code back in the day. I was kind of a computer nerd. So BASIC, beginner's all-purpose symbolic instruction code. If then was one of the biggest command. If this happens, then do that. That was a command. So put that same thing in your head and say, okay, if I see this, then that. I've worked on undercover at music festivals, and that is a big, big thing. Women under the influence getting taken advantage of. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Get off here now before the noise gets too bad. I hear it creeping closer and closer. I think it might be the yard work, guys. Anyway, so this is your boy, Private Eye Russ. This has been an episode of the Private Eye Russ podcast. Like, subscribe, share. Please do it now while we're talking. Comment. Share these videos, like, subscribe. Let's get over 1,000 subscribers here on YouTube. Follow me on X as well too, at Private Eye Russ. If you need my services, if you need an investigator, you need a background investigation, if you need personal coaching, Russ at privateeyeruss.com. That's Russ at privateeyerus.com, or privateinvestigatorruss at gmail.com. Make your life better. Keep yourself safe. And I will talk to you guys in the next one.